Hello! Today I'm going to share with you 5 games that you can play with a simple deck of cards. These games are all pretty versatile, so you can adapt and modify them to suit your family's needs based on what your child is learning currently in math. Each one focuses on improving your child's retention of their math facts and helps them use them fluidly. Games begin simply with making 10 and go all the way up to using combinations of all operations, including squares, cubes, and roots if you'd like. The 5 games I'm going to show you are Make 10, War with a Twist, Evens and Odds, Spit, and Make 24. I hope you enjoy them. Okay, so the first game that I'm going to show you is called Making 10, and for all of these games we don't need the face cards, so I'm going to remove them from the deck and set them aside. And for Make 10, I'm going to choose the simple setup. You could use either the Spit setup or the simple setup, but because you're working with younger kids, most likely, I think the simple setup makes sense. So first, I'm going to set out 5 cards, and then my discard section. And I'm giving 3 options here just to give them more places to look. And our whole goal is just to make a 10. So I have 6 and 4. We'll make 10. And now I have this empty space, so I'm going to replenish it with a card from my hand. So now I'm looking again to see, can I make a 10? I don't have any 6s to go with the 4. I don't have any 4s to go with the 6. And I have no 0s. So I'm going to add a new set of cards to the discard pile and see now if I can make 10. So I have an 8 and a 2. Now I have a 2 and an 8. I've got a 6 to go with my 4. I do not have any 4s. So now again, I'll add more cards here so we have more choices. At this stage with making 10, really we're thinking like number bonds, and it's just simple addition, just 2 numbers that you can put together to make a 10. If you want to make it more advanced, you can, but for the most part, I think that you probably want to just stick with a very simple version of this game. Okay, the next game I'm going to show you is a variation of the game that I played growing up called Spit. You could set up 7 cards, and I would suggest probably doing that if you're working with negative numbers just because it gives you more options. But for most cases, you're only going to need 5 cards. And again, we're going to pull out all of the face cards from our deck because we don't need them. Another reason why I'd only use 5 instead of 7 is because if you have 2 people competing against each other, you run out of cards. You could double your deck if you need to, but if you do 5 on each side, it should work out fine for 2 players to have enough cards. So I set it up 1 card face up and 4 cards face down, and then face up and down, and I continue across until I've made all of my piles. So my last pile will have 5 cards, and then 4 cards, 3 cards, 2 cards, 1 card. And then the remainder of my cards, I'm going to split into 2 draw piles here. And I'll flip the top card. And then we can play really a variety of ways. I can add, subtract, multiply, divide to try to get these cards that are here. I can do multi-steps or multiple operations to reach those numbers. So here's an example. So 10 minus 4 would give me 6. And then I always want to have my 5 piles, so then I'll move the card over and make new piles. I could do 4 times 2 is 8. Let me see if I can get more than one step. 10 divided by 10 is 1. That doesn't help me with any of these. 6 and 7. So let's say it's not coming to me really fast, and just for the sake of the game, maybe I could make it, but just for modeling, if you can't make it, then we're going to flip those top cards. So 10 minus 6 would give me 4. 10 minus 7 would give me 3. 6 and 7 is 13. I'm going to do that so you can see multiple steps. 6 plus 7 is 13. Minus 10 gets me to 3. And again, I'll just keep going, always having 5 piles here. Now, another variation you can do to make it more complicated is reds can be negative and blacks can be positive. And that can get really complicated pretty quickly. But so here I need to get either a -7 or a -4. So -3 plus -4 will give me -7. Could do -10 minus -6. So -10 minus -6 makes it -10 plus a +6, which gives me -4. So that would work. And then I want to just try to go out all at once. I don't want to get stuck with just one card here because then I can't win. And that's basically it. It's a pretty easy game, lots of variations. 9 minus 5 is 4. And you see, and you just go at it. Whatever operations you want to use, whatever you're working on with your kids, this game can make it happen. Okay, the next game I want to show you is a fast, easy game. You've probably played it a million times, and it's War, but we're calling it War with a twist because we're going to do some math with War instead. So one thing that I would say right off the bat is as you play this game, you want to do it in rounds. So either we're doing just addition right now, and then maybe the next round we do just subtraction, and then multiplication, and then division. Another thing that's important is to keep a position 1 and a position 2. So that you, for addition, it doesn't really matter, but for subtraction or division, it's going to matter which card is your numerator or denominator or which card you're subtracting from. Right, so I'm going to call the position on my left, position 1, and this will be position 2. So if I'm adding, it's just 5 and 4 is 9. First person to call out the answer wins those cards. The person with the biggest pile at the end wins. Right? If I was doing subtraction, if this is position 1 minus position 2, if you have positive and negative numbers, you could say positive 2 minus positive 8 would give me a -6. And again, when we do positive and negatives, black are our positives and red are negative numbers. That's pretty complicated. You want to wait till your kids are pretty comfortable with it as they get older, I think. Otherwise, if I didn't have negative numbers yet with my kids, if I hadn't covered that, then I would just make it the biggest number minus the smallest number, and the positions don't really matter. So 8 minus 2 would be 6. If you're doing fractions, so now my fraction would be 2/5. If that wasn't in simplest form, then I would have my child simplify it to get the points. So again, position 1, position 2, 3/10. Or 3 times 10 is 30, or 10 minus 3 is 7, or 3 minus -10. So 3 plus 10 would be 13. Like I said, there's a million ways you can play this depending on what your kids are working on right now in math, and it's fast and easy, and you can do it in just a couple minutes. So it's a great time filler too. Okay, the next game I'm going to show you is evens and odds. And here I'm using the spit setup. You could use the simple setup that we used for Make 10. It's your preference. But for the spit setup, which is a terrible name, but spit is what we called it when I was a kid when we would set up the cards this way. But anyway, so evens and odds. So if you have 2 players, one is evens and one is odds. And I'm trying to make even or odd numbers, again, using one of these and one of my cards. So 6 and 9 is 15. So if I was odds, that would work. If I was evens, 3 and 7 would make 10. And again, I just want to have my 5 piles here. If you're doing the simple setup where the adult is filling in, then as they play a card, you just place a new one on. And this is just good practice for identifying what makes an even number, what makes an odd number, and working to quickly generate them. Okay, the last game is a game of making 24. And this game is hard. It takes a lot of thought, and it's going to take a little bit of patience. And so if your child is easily frustrated by math, it might not be the best game for you. But if your child really likes a challenge or really has a mathematical brain, then this could be a really good option for you. But in this game, we're trying to make 24. And you could start with just one row of 4. But I like to do a square, a 4x4 square, because then I can try to make 24 across, down, or diagonally. And so, for example, I figured this out ahead of time because otherwise I would be just staring quietly for a long time at the cards. But a good rule of thumb is to think about what you use to make 24. So 3 and 8, 6 and 4, 12 and 2. So here, see if I can remember what I had figured out ahead of time. I've got 9 and 3 is 12, and 6 times 2 is 12. So 12 plus 12 would equal my 24. So do you see that? 6 times 2 again is 12. 9 plus 3 is 12. 12 times 12 is 24. And then I clear those cards, and if I'm competing, then I get to keep them, and I lay out 4 more cards. This is a nice game to do collaboratively because it is so much thought that is required for it. And so it might be one where you want to try to race the clock and see how many 24s can we find in a minute, or how many 24s can we find in 2 minutes. Because, like I said, it can take quite a bit of thought to figure it out, especially if you haven't had coffee recently, which is my current situation. Thanks for checking out this video. I hope you got some good ideas that you can use to make math fun. Visit methodswithmeaning.com for more ideas.